Hello, it's me, Catherine, and we're going to talk again a little bit about my multiple sclerosis. So I just kind of want to give you a little rundown over my journey over the past year with the multiple sclerosis. So if you watch my diagnosis story, you have an idea of how this all happened, and the MS hug is still my primary biggest issue that I struggle with. However, between a drug called baclofen and a lot of stretching, at least every other day, I do actually really well managing that pain. After diagnosis and starting treatment, getting the hug more into control with drugs was very helpful. When I discovered stretching, it was like another at least third of things. So I really would say that 2/3 of my pain is managed by the baclofen, and a third is managed by the or probably and a third is probably managed by the stretching. I still have a little bit of a tension, a little bit of a squeeze, a little bit of discomfort all the time in that area. And it does occasionally get more severe, but for the most part, it's not too bad. Other things that I've experienced, I've had a lot of just generalized nerve pains, lots of generalized muscle cramping. I've had a lot of what I would now describe as internal tremors in my legs and pelvis. And it's like, it started, I would say, at first, like, if you would imagine the feeling of a cell phone vibrating in your pocket, how it might make you feel like your leg's vibrating. But you just discard that feeling as, oh, it must have been my cell phone. Well, at first I thought my cat purring was what I was feeling, but then she wasn't purring. It was just my legs, where she'd climb off me and it was still there. And it grew into more substantial over time. It's gotten better recently, but we can get into that. The other big things are, I had a fair bit of tinnitus issues, not particularly debilitating issue, but frustrating nonetheless. It does appear, for me at least, that gabapentin plays a large role in that. I did notice it initially right after starting gabapentin. Though I quit the gabapentin and it didn't immediately go away, it came back, it continued, but I didn't quit the gabapentin for a particularly long period, so I'm not entirely sure that there was a lot to that. Since weaning off and completely getting off gabapentin this year, as of February, that's gone away. I also had some other specific issues that have gone away since I got off the gabapentin that showed up later, not right away when I started taking the gabapentin, but more like 6 months in. I started to have some issues with my genital region having numbness, and that has completely gone away since I stopped taking the gabapentin. I also was having issues with numbness and tingling in my hands that was different from what I would normally prescribe to my MS, and it was more of a cold tingling. I had been taking the drug Aubagio for also the past year, from February of 2020 to February of this year. About 3 days after I stopped taking that, the dizzy fits that I'd been having for the past 4 probably months, and severe nausea that was having me days on end in bed, that went away when I stopped taking the Aubagio. So it appears as though it built up in my system. As we know, that one builds up over 2 years and didn't cause me problems initially. It was great, but it eventually started to cause problems. I was also having a lot of fatigue issues. I was taking Adderall for about 6 months for fatigue problems, and getting off the gabapentin and the Aubagio both seems to have solved those fatigue issues. I was able to get off the Adderall, which helped my overall feeling. I was feeling a little bit weird and jittery most of the time. I was also suffering from some trigeminal neuralgia issues, which kind of just felt like I'd been kind of bopped in the nose. So like my nose kind of had this ache in it, and then like the roof of my mouth and kind of my sinus area. And I didn't have like the traditional trigeminal neuralgia where it was like super, super painful and sharp and terrible, thankfully. But I had it basically all the time as like a pressure. That also seems to have gone away post-gabapentin. So there's just something to be learned that gabapentin can compromise your nerves, so be careful with it. And if you start having new nerve issues that are different from things you've experienced with your MS, and there's no proof that there's progression, you might consider that it's a longer term symptom from the gabapentin, because that's what happened to me. And I just want to spread awareness on that. I also have had some issues with severe spasms in my pelvic floor, and it's possible that may not be related to the MS as much as endometriosis. So February of this year, I was also diagnosed with endometriosis. At the beginning of February, I had a surgery to remove a large cyst from one of my ovaries that had been causing me pain. And I'd had some issues with cysts for many years, and we hypothesized potentially I had endometriosis, but I didn't have a lot of severe clots or really irregular periods. Well, I started to have more severe clotting, more irregular periods. My nausea and pain issues with my pelvis got worse. And when I decided to have the surgery to remove the cyst, they found the endometriosis, and they dealt with some of it. However, they couldn't deal with all of it. So I just started a treatment for that, which I did a bunch of research for and found that very low doses of danazol at 50 milligrams could potentially be effective instead of the 400 to 800 milligrams they normally give you. And gave that to my gynecologist, and she said, yeah, let's try it. And it could be a total coincidence and just I'm suddenly having remission after a year and a half of MS, or who knows. But basically everything except for the hug has all but gone away since Saturday when I started taking the danazol. So in the past 4 days, my life has been better than it's been in a year and a half, and I am feeling so good. There is some research to say that low doses of testosterone may be a useful tactic in combating some of the MS stuff. Most notably that severe panic issue I was having, and it was so regular and cyclic and at certain times of day, and it just, like this very first day I took the danazol, I didn't have it, and I haven't had it since. So that's amazing. And my leg tremors are all but gone. My pelvic floor has basically stopped spasming. I had like a little bit of tension, but I haven't had any real spasms. My overall nerve pain levels and muscle ache feelings have been so low. I have more energy. I have more cognitive clarity. I feel like a new woman. So I'm actually doing really well. So this is a really positive update. We'll see how it goes over the next, while. But I'm positive to see some good changes. I really, really 100% do believe that the mobility training has been really good for me. I was struggling for quite some time with some breathing problems where I was breathing like with my neck rather than like my chest muscles, and I thought it was all MS hug, and that's really what we were prescribing it to, but It got a lot better when I stopped taking the gabapentin as well. And so I'm wondering now, or thinking now, that the potential of muscle weakness and muscle weakening, especially in respiratory muscles, that they do warn you about on the label for gabapentin, may have actually been part of the problem, because I haven't had any breathing problems since I stopped it. So I'm feeling super good, and I'm really happy to report positive things to all of you guys. I'll keep you in the loop as time goes forward. MS is weird. It's got a lot of symptoms and a lot of weird little things, you know, but the really debilitating stuff like the dizziness, the nausea, the fatigue, you know, the inability to concentrate or focus, you know, debilitating pain that makes it hard for you to get up out of bed, you know, all of that is just so hard, and I send so much love to all of you fellow MSers, or, you know, even if you don't have MS and you're just suffering. Like, so many people have chronic illness, and it's just unexplained. So, I'm with you, and I send my love, and you take care. Thank you for following me.